Captain Peter Collins sat in his command chair on the bridge of the Earth Defense Force ship Defiance. The ship was on a normal patrol near Jupiter. They had been out here for 3 weeks and nothing unusual had happened. Peter was bored. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," said Lisa Wright. She was the communications officer and she rarely got excited, but now her voice shook slightly. "It's not a normal signal. It doesn't match anything in our database." Peter sat up straight. "Put it on the main speaker." The bridge filled with odd clicking and humming sounds. No one had ever heard anything like it before. It wasn't mechanical noise. It sounded alive. "Where is it coming from?" Peter asked. Alan Garcia, the science officer, worked quickly at his station. "Sir, there's an energy reading about 50,000 miles ahead. It wasn't there a minute ago," Peter ordered. "Slow to half speed. Ready all defensive systems, but don't power weapons yet. I want to see what we're dealing with first." The crew followed his orders. The Defiance slowed down as it approached the energy reading. Then they all saw it, a tear in space itself. It looked like someone had taken a knife and cut open the blackness of space. Through the tear came brilliant purple light. "Record everything," Peter said quietly. The tear grew larger. Then something began to emerge. It was a ship, but unlike anything humans had built, it was huge, at least 30 times the size of the Defiance. It had no visible engines. Its surface was smooth and dark with strange glowing patterns that shifted and changed. "Sir," Lisa said, "I'm trying to send greeting messages on all frequencies. No response." Peter nodded. "Keep trying." "Alan, what can you tell me about that ship?" Alan looked up from his instruments, his face pale. "Captain, its hull is made of materials we've never seen before. The energy readings are off the charts. And it's scanning us." As soon as Alan said this, a beam of light shot from the alien ship and hit the Defiance. The lights flickered, alarm bells rang throughout the ship. "We're losing power," shouted Rick Evans, the engineer. "All systems failing." Peter tried to give orders, but nothing on the ship responded. The Defiance was dead in space. The crew watched helplessly as the massive alien vessel moved closer. A section of the alien ship opened, revealing a bright docking bay. Without using any visible tractor beam, the Defiance began to move toward the opening. "Everyone stay calm," Peter ordered. "We need to be ready for first contact. Remember your training." The Defiance drifted into the massive bay. Once inside, the opening closed behind them. The crew looked around in wonder. The docking bay could have held 20 ships the size of the Defiance. Other strange vessels were stored here, all different in design. Peter realized with growing dread that they might not be the first civilization these aliens had encountered. "Sir, we have some power returning," Rick reported. "Life support and internal communications only. No weapons, no engines, no external communications." "Get me shipwide," Peter said. When Rick nodded, Peter spoke to his entire crew. "All personnel, this is the captain. We appear to have been invited aboard an alien vessel. Remain at your posts. Security teams on standby. First contact protocols are now in effect." Just as Peter finished speaking, the main airlock door of the Defiance opened without any command from the crew. Standing there were 3 tall figures. The aliens were unlike anything from Earth. They stood on 2 legs but had 4 arms. Their bodies were covered in a transparent exoskeleton that revealed glowing organs underneath. Their heads had no recognizable features except for 3 large, dark eyes arranged in a triangle pattern. The lead alien stepped forward. It carried a small device that it pointed at Peter. The device hummed, and then the alien spoke. The words were clearly not from its mouth, but from the device. "You are now property of the Meridian Empire," it said in flat, mechanical English. "Your world has been studied. You are primitive, but useful. Resistance is unnecessary. It will only cause pain." Peter stood tall. "I am Captain Peter Collins of the Earth Defense Force ship Defiance. We represent humanity and peace. We do not recognize your claim of ownership over us or our world." The alien's device hummed again. "I am Supreme Commander Xylos. Your understanding is not required. Only compliance. You will be separated for assessment. More aliens entered the ship. The crew tried to resist, but the aliens carried small wands that, when pointed at humans, caused instant paralysis. One by one, the crew members of the Defiance were taken. Peter fought harder than the others. As two aliens dragged him from the bridge, he shouted to his crew, "Stay strong. Earth will not fall. Remember who we are." The aliens took Peter to a room deep inside their ship. It looked like a medical lab. They strapped him to a cold metal table. Various machines hung from the ceiling with sharp tools and scanning devices attached to them. "What are you going to do?" Peter asked, struggling against the restraints. Supreme Commander Xylos entered the room. "You will be examined. Your biology will be catalogued. Your mind will be studied. Then we will decide your function." "My people won't submit," Peter said. "Humans have faced threats before. We survive. We fight back." Xylos made a sound that might have been laughter. "All species say this. All species submit. In our 1,000 years of expansion, none have successfully resisted the Meridian Empire." As the aliens prepared their instruments, Peter closed his eyes. He thought about Earth, about the history of his people. Humans had faced disasters, wars, plagues, and countless other challenges. They had always found a way to endure, to overcome. These aliens didn't understand what they were dealing with. They had never met humans before. They didn't know about human determination, creativity, and courage. They would learn soon enough. The first instrument touched Peter's skin. The examination had begun. But even as pain shot through his body, Peter smiled slightly. The aliens had made a terrible mistake. They should have left Earth alone. 6 months had passed since the Meridians came to Earth. The sky over Chicago was no longer blue. It was always gray now, filled with the smoke from burning buildings and the dust from alien mining operations. Jack Miller moved silently through the ruins of what had once been a shopping mall. His clothes were dirty and torn, but his eyes were sharp and alert. He carried an old hunting rifle that had been modified with parts taken from dead Meridian soldiers. "Area clear," he whispered into his radio. "Move up." 3 more people emerged from the shadows. Samantha Nelson carried a laptop in a waterproof case. Her glasses were cracked, but she had no way to replace them. Dr. Kevin Porter had a medical bag slung over his shoulder. His face was thin from months of not having enough to eat. Grace Martinez completed the group. She was good with machines and carried a bag of tools. "The Meridian Patrol passed 10 minutes ago," Jack said. "We have about 50 minutes before the next one. Sam, can you get us inside?" Samantha nodded. The group moved to a metal door at the back of the mall. It led to a research center the aliens had built. Samantha connected her laptop to the door's control panel. Her fingers moved quickly across the keyboard. "Their security systems are complex," she said, "but they follow patterns. Once you understand the patterns, you can predict them." The door slid open. Jack went in first, rifle ready. The others followed. The inside of the building looked nothing like the mall it had once been. The walls were covered in a strange metal that glowed faintly. The air smelled like chemicals. "Remember the plan," Jack said. "We get the medical supplies, we check for prisoners, and we leave. 15 minutes max." They moved deeper into the facility. Once this kind of mission would have seemed impossible, but the resistance fighters had learned a lot about the aliens. In 6 months, they knew that most Meridian soldiers couldn't see well in dim light. They knew that the aliens relied heavily on technology and didn't expect humans to fight back with simple weapons and tactics. The group reached a storage room. Dr. Porter quickly gathered antibiotics and pain medicine. "This will help a lot of people," he said, filling his bag. Grace found a cabinet filled with Meridian communication devices. "These will be useful," she said, taking several. Jack and Samantha moved to a computer terminal. "Can you access their prisoner records?" Jack asked. Samantha connected her laptop again. "I think so. Give me a minute." While she worked, Jack kept watch. Earth's major cities had fallen quickly after the aliens arrived. Their weapons were too powerful, their ships too many. But humans hadn't given up. Small groups fought back wherever they could. They shared information. They learned the enemy's weaknesses. "Jack," Samantha's voice was urgent. "I found something. There's a special prisoner being kept on level 3. The file is heavily encrypted, but it mentions a human captain." Jack's heart beat faster. "Captain Collins from the first contact ship? Maybe. The file says this prisoner is important because of unusual brain patterns." Jack made a quick decision. "Change of plans. We're going to level 3. Using the building plans Samantha had downloaded, the group found their way to a service elevator. Level 3 was a high-security area. As they stepped out of the elevator, they saw 2 Meridian guards. Jack fired his rifle twice. The guards fell. "That will trigger alarms," Grace said. "Then we move fast," Jack replied. They ran down a long hallway lined with doors. Each door had a small window. They looked in each one, finding strange laboratories and empty cells. At the end of the hall was a larger door with 2 more guards. Jack and Grace took positions at the corners. Jack fired first, hitting one guard. The second guard fired back with an energy weapon that melted the wall behind Jack. Grace threw a small metal object that she had made from Meridian parts. It exploded with a flash of light. The guard dropped its weapon, blinded, and Jack's second shot brought it down. "That door needs a special code," Samantha said, examining the lock. Dr. Porter looked through the window. "Jack, you need to see this." Jack looked. Inside the room was a human strapped to a metal table. His body was covered in scars. Parts of him had been replaced with Meridian technology. One arm was entirely mechanical. His head was connected to machines by dozens of wires. But his face was still recognizable. "It's him," Jack said. "It's Captain Collins." Samantha worked quickly to open the door. When it slid open, alarms began to sound throughout the facility. "We have maybe 5 minutes before this place is swarming with Meridians," Grace warned. Dr. Porter examined the machines connected to Collins. "We need to disconnect him carefully, or it could kill him." "Do what you can," Jack said. "We're not leaving him." While Dr. Porter and Grace worked to free Collins, Jack and Samantha guarded the door. Soon they heard the sounds of Meridian soldiers approaching. "Hurry," Jack called. "Almost done," Grace said. Collins's eyes suddenly opened. They were still human, full of pain, but also determination. "Who?" His voice was rough from lack of "Hughes, we're the Resistance," Jack said. "We're getting you out." The last wire disconnected and Collins sat up shakily. His mechanical arm whirred as he moved it. "Can you walk?" Dr. Porter asked. "I'll manage," Collins said. The group left the room just as energy blasts hit the wall behind them. Meridian soldiers had arrived. Jack fired back, covering the others as they moved toward an emergency exit Samantha had found on the building. Plans. They fought their way through the facility, with Collins becoming stronger with each step. His mechanical arm proved useful when 2 Meridian soldiers cornered them in a storage room. Collins moved with unexpected speed, his metal arm crushing one soldier's exoskeleton. They finally reached the exit and burst out into the dark Chicago night. The Meridian alarm systems were now fully activated. Searchlights swept across the ruins of the city. "This way," Jack said, leading them to a hidden entrance to the old subway system. It was the Resistance's main way of moving around the city without being detected. Once they were safely underground, they stopped to rest. Collins leaned against a wall, breathing hard. "Thank you," he said. "I've been their prisoner since the invasion began. They've been studying me." "Why?" Samantha asked. Collins looked at them with his tired human eyes. "Because they don't understand us. In thousands of years of conquering other worlds, they've never encountered a species like humans before. They don't understand our emotions, our will to fight back." He touched his mechanical arm. "And they especially don't understand hope." Jack nodded. "Hope is what keeps us going. Hope that one day we'll take our planet back." "We will," Collins said, "because these aliens didn't realize what they were dealing with when they came to Earth. And now they're beginning to fear us." 3 weeks had passed since the rescue of Captain Collins. The resistance base was hidden deep in the abandoned mine systems of the Rocky Mountains. The old mining tunnels provided protection from Meridian scanners. They had power from hidden solar panels and a small water source inside the mountain. Dr. Porter bent over his makeshift lab setup. He had been studying the data they took from the Meridian research facility during the rescue. His eyes were red from lack of sleep. "I think I found something," he said to Jack, who was checking weapons nearby. The Meridians communicate through a kind of hive mind. They share thoughts across their entire species, but certain sound frequencies can disrupt this connection. Jack put down the rifle he was cleaning. "You mean we could use sound as a weapon against them?" "Maybe. I need to run more tests." In another part of the base, Samantha worked with Captain Collins. His mechanical arm and other Meridian implants were proving useful. He could interact with alien technology in ways no normal human could. "It's strange," Collins said as his metal fingers moved across a Meridian device they had captured. "I can feel their programming like it's part of me now. They think so differently than we do." "How?" Samantha asked. "They never act alone. Every decision is made by the group. They don't understand why humans keep fighting after we've been defeated. In their experience, once the leaders of a species surrender, resistance ends. They don't understand human stubbornness," Samantha said with a small smile. Collins nodded. "Or human hope or human fear. These emotions are completely foreign to them." Their conversation was interrupted by a loud alarm. Grace's voice came over the base's speaker system. "Unknown aircraft approaching. Everyone to battle stations." Jack grabbed his rifle and ran to the main entrance. Other resistance fighters joined him. They had prepared for this day. If the Meridians had found their base, they would not surrender easily. "Get ready," Jack ordered. The fighters took positions behind barriers. They aimed their weapons at the entrance. The large metal door of the base shook as something hit it from outside. Then again. On the third hit, the door bent inward. The resistance fighters prepared to fire. The door finally gave way. But instead of Meridian soldiers, a single figure stumbled inside. It wasn't human. It wasn't Meridian either. The creature was tall and thin with pale blue skin. It had 4 arms, like the Meridians, but its face was more human-like, with 2 eyes and a mouth. It was badly injured. "Don't shoot," the creature said in perfect English. "I come seeking allies." Before anyone could respond, the alien collapsed. Dr. Porter rushed forward to check on it. "It's alive, but barely," he said. "Help me get it to the medical area." They carried the strange visitor to Dr. Porter's lab. As they treated its wounds, more aliens like it emerged from a small ship hidden in the trees outside. There were 5 in total. They explained that they were Solarians, a species that had fought against the Meridians centuries ago. Their leader, Ambassador Nix, spoke with Jack and Collins while Dr. Porter treated their injured companion. "We thought your kind would be quickly conquered like all the others," Nix said. "But you keep fighting. 3 of our scout ships were watching Earth. When we saw your resistance, we decided to make contact." "Why now?" Jack asked, suspicious. "Because the Meridians fear you," Nix replied. "They don't understand why their usual methods of control aren't working." Collins leaned forward. "What methods?" "The Meridians are controlled by an entity called the Overmind. When they conquer a world, they connect the captured species to this Overmind. It suppresses individual thought. But humans are resisting this connection in ways no species has before. This matched what Collins had learned during his captivity. The Meridians had tried to connect him to their hive mind, but something about human brains rejected the full connection. "Can you help us fight them?" Jack asked. Nix nodded. "We have been fighting a shadow war against them for generations. We have weapons that can hurt them. But more importantly, we know about the technology of the predecessors." "The who?" asked Samantha, who had joined them. "The predecessors were an ancient species that ruled this galaxy long ago. They created a technology that could break the Overmind's control. Parts of this technology were hidden on Earth during prehistoric times." Jack looked skeptical. "You're saying some ancient alien technology is hidden on Earth, and we never found it?" "Your people wouldn't recognize it," Nix explained. "The devices only activate in response to specific genetic patterns. Humans have these patterns. That's one reason the Meridians invaded your world. They want to understand why you're compatible with predecessor technology. This new information changed everything. Instead of just fighting for survival, the Resistance now had a chance to actually defeat the Meridians. Jack called a meeting with all the Resistance leaders. They gathered in the main room of the base while Nick shared star maps showing the locations of the predecessor artifacts. There were 4 key sites: the Amazon rainforest, the Sahara Desert, the Mariana Trench, and beneath the ice of Antarctica. "We need to send teams to each location," Jack said. "If these artifacts can help us defeat the Meridians, we have to find them." Colin studied the maps with his enhanced vision. The Antarctica site will be the hardest to reach. The Meridians have a major base there. "Then that's where I'll go," Jack said. "Samantha, you coordinate the other teams from here." As they made plans, Collins suddenly froze. His mechanical eye glowed brightly. "What's wrong?" Grace asked. "I'm picking up Meridian communications," Collins said slowly. "My implants still connect to their network sometimes. They're talking about something called planetary sterilization." The room went silent. Nix's face showed fear. "What is that?" Jack asked. "It means they've decided Earth is too dangerous to control," Nix explained. "They're going to destroy all life on the planet. They've done it before to worlds that resisted too strongly." "How long do we have?" Dr. Porter asked. Collins focused, his mechanical parts humming. 3 days. The sterilization fleet is already on its way." Jack looked around at his team, then at their new alien allies. The situation was dire, but for the first time since the invasion, they had a real plan. They had allies. They had hope. "Then we have 3 days to find these artifacts and stop them," he said. "Let's move out." The teams moved quickly. With only 3 days before the Meridian sterilization fleet arrived, there was no time to waste. 4 groups set out to find the predecessor artifacts. Samantha coordinated their efforts from the base, using communication equipment provided by the Solarians. Jack led the team heading to Antarctica. Grace went with him, along with Ambassador Nix. They traveled in a Solarian ship that could hide from Meridian scanners. The ship was small but fast. As they flew south, Jack looked out the window at the land below. Much of Earth was damaged now. Forests were gone. Lakes had dried up. Meridian mining operations had scarred the landscape. "Will Earth ever recover?" he asked quietly. "If we succeed, yes," Nix answered. "My world did, after we drove the Meridians away from our star system." The other teams reported in as they reached their destinations. The Amazon team, led by Dr. Porter, had landed safely and was moving toward the coordinates. The Sahara team had encountered a small group of Meridian scouts but had avoided detection. The team headed for the Mariana Trench had the longest journey, as they needed to find a submarine. Jack's team reached Antarctica by nightfall. The continent was covered in ice, but the Meridians had built a massive base near the South Pole. Steam rose from the facility as it melted the ancient ice. "They've been digging," Grace said, looking through binoculars. "They must know something is down there." Nick studied the base through the ship's sensors. "The facility has heavy defenses. We cannot approach directly." "Can your ship's stealth systems get us close?" Jack asked. "Within 1 mile. Then we must go on foot." They landed the ship behind a ridge of ice, out of sight from the Meridian base. The cold hit them as soon as they stepped outside. Even with the special suits provided by the Solarians, the Antarctic wind cut through to their bones. They trudged through the snow, staying low. Grace carried equipment to detect Meridian patrols. Jack had his modified rifle. Nix brought weapons that could actually hurt the Meridians. Sonic disruptors that interfered with their hive mind connection. As they got closer to the base, Grace's detector began to beep. "Patrol coming," she whispered. They hid behind a snowdrift. 5 Meridian soldiers walked past, their exoskeletons glowing faintly in the darkness. When the patrol was gone, the team continued. They reached the edge of the base. Massive walls of alien metal rose before them. Searchlights swept across the perimeter. Nix used a device to create a temporary blind spot in the Meridian security system, and they slipped inside. The interior of the base was warm compared to the outside. They moved through corridors filled with strange machinery. Meridian workers moved about, but none noticed the intruders. The Solarian stealth technology bent light around them, making them nearly invisible. According to the map, the artifact should be below us, Nix said. Deep underground. They found an elevator shaft and descended. The lower levels of the base were different. The walls were not made of Meridian metal, but of something much older. The material was dark and seemed to absorb light. Predecessor technology, Nix whispered with awe. The Meridians built their base on top of an ancient structure. They followed, a long corridor. The air felt strange here, heavy with energy. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the base. They've detected us, Grace said. Run, Jack ordered. They sprinted down the corridor as Meridian soldiers poured into the passage behind them. Energy weapons fired, hitting the walls around them. One blast struck near Grace, throwing her against the wall. She fell, crying out in pain. Jack turned back for her. Blood soaked through her suit where a piece of wall had cut her leg. He helped her up, supporting her weight as they ran. Nix was ahead of them, leading the way to a large door at the end of the corridor. It was made of the same strange material as the walls. Symbols covered its surface, glowing faintly. This is it, Nix called. The chamber. More Meridians were coming. Nix made a decision. Get inside. I'll hold them off. There are too many, Jack argued. My people have fought them for centuries. Let me do this. Nix handed Jack a small device. Use this to activate the artifact. It requires human touch. Before Jack could argue further, Nix ran back toward the approaching Meridians. The Solarian pulled out weapons and began firing, creating a barrier of sonic disruption that confused the Meridian soldiers. Jack helped Grace to the door. When they touched it, the symbols glowed brighter. The door slid open silently. They stumbled inside, and the door closed behind them. They found themselves in a vast chamber. The ceiling rose so high they couldn't see it in the darkness. The floor glowed, with soft blue light. In the center of the room stood a pillar of crystal. Inside the crystal was a humanoid figure. Is that? Grace asked, leaning against Jack for support. A predecessor, Jack finished. They approached the crystal pillar. The figure inside was tall, with smooth skin that shifted colors like an opal. Its face was similar to a human's, but with larger eyes and no visible nose or mouth. Jack held out the device Nix had given him. Nothing happened. He looked at it, confused. The artifact, Grace said weakly, pointing at the crystal. I think the person inside is the artifact. Jack reached out and touched the crystal surface. The moment his fingers made contact, the entire chamber lit up. The crystal began to dissolve. The figure inside opened its eyes. I am Alara. A voice spoke directly into their minds. I have waited long for compatible beings to awaken me. We need your help, Jack said. Our world is being invaded by the Meridians. They plan to destroy all life on Earth. The collective still exists, Alara said sadly. We hoped they would evolve beyond their need to assimilate all life. Alara stepped out of the crystal. Its movements were fluid, almost like it was floating. You are the ones we seeded. Your species carries our genetic markers. That is why the collective fears you. Seeded? Grace asked, confused. Long ago, we placed genetic markers in promising species across the galaxy, a failsafe against the rise of hive minds that would destroy individual thought. Humans are one such species. Jack heard explosions from beyond the door. Nix was still fighting to buy them time. We need to activate some kind of weapon, Jack said urgently, something to stop the Meridians from destroying Earth. There is no weapon, Alara said. Only a key. Your Captain Collins, the one connected to both human and Meridian technology, is that key. He can transmit a signal through the overmind that will free all enslaved species. Jack's heart sank. Collins was back at the base thousands of miles away, and the Meridian sterilization fleet would arrive in less than 2 days now. "We need to get back to him," Jack said, "and we need to get him to the Meridian mothership." Ilara nodded. "I will help you, but to reach the mothership, you will need to capture a Meridian transport, and to save your friend outside, we must leave now." As Grace's wound was bandaged by Ilara's strange healing touch, Jack realized their mission had become even more impossible. They needed to escape Antarctica, return to the base, and somehow get Collins aboard the Meridian mothership before Earth was destroyed. But for the first time, they had a real plan to defeat the aliens. A plan that might work, if they were brave enough and fast enough. The Meridians still didn't realize what they were dealing with, humans who would never give up no matter how impossible the odds. Time was running out. Earth had less than 24 hours before the Meridian sterilization fleet arrived. The resistance teams had returned to the base in the Rocky Mountains with whatever they had found at each site. Dr. Porter's team from the Amazon brought a crystal device that hummed with energy. The Sahara team returned with metal discs covered in strange symbols. The Mariana Trench team had found underwater ruins, but no artifact. Jack's team arrived last, with Ilara, the predecessor. When the ancient being entered the base, everyone stared, in wonder. No human had ever seen a member of this long-vanished species before. Captain Collins approached Ilara cautiously. His mechanical parts seemed to respond to the predecessor's presence, glowing more brightly. "You are the bridge," Ilara said, looking at Collins. "Half human, half machine. You can connect to their network but still maintain your individual mind." Collins nodded. "The Meridians tried to connect me fully to their hive mind, but something in my brain resisted. Human brains evolve differently from most species," Ilara explained. "You can feel strong emotions like fear, love, and hope. These create neural patterns that the overmind cannot easily control." Samantha pulled up a map on her computer. "The Meridian mothership is in orbit above what used to be New York City. How do we get Collins there?" "We have captured 3 smaller Meridian vessels," Jack said. "Can we use one of those?" Ilara shook its head. "The mothership would detect those immediately. We need a ship they trust." Grace, her leg now healed by Ilara's technology, spoke up. "What about the ships bringing in supplies to their bases? If we could capture one of those." "That could work," Jack agreed. "But how do we find one?" Collins raised his mechanical hand. "I can still access parts of their network. There's a supply ship scheduled to land near Denver in 6 hours. It will return to the mothership afterward." They formed a plan quickly. A small team would intercept the supply ship when it landed. They would use Ilara's technology to hide Collins, Jack, Samantha, and Dr. Porter aboard. Once on the mothership, Collins would connect to the overmind and send the signal that would free all the enslaved species in the Meridian Empire. "What about the rest of us?" Grace asked. "You'll coordinate from here," Jack said. "And if we fail?" He didn't finish the sentence. Everyone knew what would happen if they failed. 6 hours later, the team was in position near the Denver landing site. The supply ship descended from the clouds. It was larger than they expected, with strange glowing patterns across its hull. Meridian workers began unloading containers from the ship. Using Solarian stealth technology, the team approached. Ilara used its powers to create a distraction on the far side of the landing area. When the Meridian guards went to investigate, the team slipped aboard the supply ship. They hid in a storage compartment full of empty containers. Soon the ship took off again, heading back to the mothership. The journey would take 40 minutes. "Everyone ready?" Jack asked. The others nodded. There was no turning back now. The ship docked with the massive mothership. From their hiding place, they could hear Meridian workers moving about. When the sounds faded, they emerged cautiously. The mothership was enormous. Corridors stretched in all directions. Collins used his connection to the Meridian network to guide them. "The central chamber is this way," he said. "That's where I'll need to be to send the signal." They moved through the ship, avoiding patrols. The few Meridians they encountered were quickly stunned by Dr. Porter's sound device, which temporarily disrupted their connection to the hive mind. "Something's wrong," Collins said suddenly. "They know we're here." Alarms began to sound throughout the ship. Red lights flashed in the corridors. "Run!" Jack ordered. They sprinted toward the central chamber. Meridian soldiers appeared behind them, firing energy weapons. Jack and Samantha fired back, covering Collins and Alara. Dr. Porter fell, hit by an energy blast. "Go!" he shouted to the others. "I'll hold them off." He pulled out sound grenades and threw them at the approaching Meridians. The devices exploded with high-frequency noise that caused the aliens to clutch their heads in pain. Jack wanted to go back for Porter, but there was no time. They kept running. The central chamber was just ahead. It had massive doors that were beginning to close. "We have to make it," Samantha shouted. They slid through the gap just before the doors shut completely. Inside was a vast room filled with pulsing light. In the center was a structure that looked like a giant brain made of crystal and metal. Tendrils of energy connected it to the ceiling and floor. "The Overmind," Alara whispered. A tall Meridian stepped out from behind the structure. It was different from the others, with a larger head and more complex exoskeleton. "I am Supreme Commander Xylos," it said. "You cannot stop what has begun. The sterilization fleet is already in your solar system." "Why?" Jack demanded. "Why destroy an entire world?" "Because you are dangerous," Xylos replied. "All other species we conquered accepted their place in our collective. Humans resist. You spread dangerous ideas of freedom and individuality to other species. You must be eliminated." While Xylos was talking, Collins had moved closer to the Overmind structure. Now he lunged forward, pressing his mechanical hand against the crystal surface. His implants began to glow brightly. Xylos shouted something in the Meridian language. Guards rushed in from side doors. They raised their weapons. Alara stepped forward, creating a shield of energy around Collins. "Complete the connection," the predecessor shouted. "I will protect you." Collins's mechanical eye glowed blue as he connected to the Overmind. His human eye remained brown, focused on his task. His mouth moved as if he was having a conversation, but no sound came out. Jack and Samantha fired at the Meridian guards, keeping them back. But there were too many. Soon they would be overwhelmed. "Whatever you're doing, hurry," Jack called to Collins. Collins didn't respond. His body was rigid, his mechanical parts pulsing with energy. Suddenly, the Overmind structure began to glow, red. Alarms sounded throughout the mothership. "What's happening?" Samantha asked. "He's sending the signal," Alara said. "The freedom signal." The Meridian guards suddenly stopped attacking. They looked at each other in confusion. Some removed parts of their exoskeletons as if seeing them for the first time. Xylos stumbled forward. "What have you done?" it asked, its voice now sounding more individual, less mechanical. "I've freed you," Collins said, removing his hand from the Overmind. "All of you. The Overmind no longer controls anyone." Throughout the mothership and across Earth, Meridian soldiers were dropping their weapons. The various species that made up the Meridian Empire were waking up as if from a long dream. "How?" Xylos asked. "Humans never fully connect to your hive mind," Collins explained. "We maintain our individuality. I use that gap to create a freedom signal. It's spreading through your entire empire now, freeing everyone." Alara stepped forward. The Meridian Empire began as a peaceful alliance of species. The Overmind was created to coordinate them, but over time it took control, turning alliance into slavery. "Now you are free to choose your own path again." Xylos looked at its hands as if seeing them for the first time. "I remember now. Before the Overmind took control, we were peaceful." Jack lowered his weapon slowly. "Does this mean Earth is safe?" "Yes," Alara said. "The sterilization fleet was controlled by the Overmind. Now those ships will be controlled by their crews, who are free to make their own choices." 1 year later, Earth was healing. The freed species of the former Meridian Empire had helped humans rebuild. The damage done by the invasion was being repaired. Trees were replanted, cities were reconstructed. The different species were learning to work together. Captain Collins, still part human and part machine, stood on the bridge of a new ship called the Resilience. It was Earth's first true starship, built with help from their new allies. Its mission was to visit the former Meridian worlds and establish peaceful relations. Jack and Samantha watched from the observation deck as the ship prepared to launch. They had both been offered positions on the crew but had chosen to stay on Earth to help with the rebuilding. "Do you think they'll ever come back?" Samantha asked. "The Meridians, I mean." "Not as invaders," Jack said. "They understand us better, now. They know what they're dealing with." "And what's that?" Jack smiled. "Humans. Stubborn, hopeful, determined humans who never give up, even when it seems impossible." He took her hand as they watched the Resilience rise into the clear blue sky, carrying humanity's spirit to the stars.